Mishcon Academy digital sessions.
Welcome and thank you for joining us today for this Mishcon Academy digital session on delivering a digital revolution powerhouse. I'm absolutely delighted today to be joined by Ron Kalifa OBE. Ron has had a long and distinguished career in banking and FinTech. He was the CEO and later the Vice Chairman and Board Director of WorldPay. Amongst other appointments, Ron is the Chairman of FutureLearn, the EdTech platform. He's a non-executive director to the Bank of England's Court of Directors and a member of the Council of Imperial College. In July last year, Ron was invited by the Chancellor of the Exchequer to lead an independent FinTech Strategic review. That review was published in February of this year. Ron, welcome and thank you for joining us today. The Kalifa review identifies a number of areas of strategic priority to support the UK's FinTech sector. Just so we're clear, are the review's recommendations specific only to the FinTech sector, or do they have broader applicability across the wider financial services and tech sectors?
The proposals that I've put forward in the review very much apply to wider financial services. And the reason for that, I think, is because it's no longer the case that there is a clear distinction between FinTech and, let's call it, the traditional financial sector. And in fact, when I speak to the largest financial institutions in the country, the CEOs there, they often refer themselves as a FinTech, which is a sort of a laughable thought a few years ago, but it just shows how they're thinking about it. I think it's imperative that traditional players, such as much as the new ones, embrace and lead this technological revolution.
The response from the review's recommendations, which you've touched on, from FinTech and from the wider tech and financial services sectors has been very positive. And to some extent, the ball is now in the government's court. In terms of the response from government, what are you expecting?
The Chancellor basically confirmed that the government will action on a number of the recommendations that we put forward. Also, he talked about the fact that we want to ensure that the UK remains at the cutting edge of digitising financial services. The government's also committed to consulting on a number of changes to the listing rules in order to attract more IPOs here to the UK. And finally, I'm really pleased that both the Chancellor and the Economic Secretary have backed the proposal to create a Centre for Finance, Innovation and Technology. CFIT, for short, is an important recommendation from the review, and it represents a broader vision for FinTech. CFIT is about combining the UK's strengths in FinTech, in tech and in finance to develop a platform that I think very few will be able to compete with.
There was a call for building a public-private coordination to ensure strategic focus and an official mandate from government to pursue it. And clearly that mandate has been provided. I'm interested to know what you think were the barriers in the past to that public-private coordination.
This is very much to do with the proposal to establish CFIT, the Centre for Finance, Innovation and Technology. How do we accelerate growth in areas such as digital ID, ESG, data, etc.? I think the way that we'll try and do it will be through research, through thought leadership, and by identifying and addressing barriers to FinTech scale and adoption. The reality is that we don't have a problem in the UK in terms of startups. The big challenge is actually scale-ups. How do you get businesses that have got the seeds of ideas to really go to the next level so that we have more jobs created, we have more innovation, we have a levelling up agenda, we have more IPOs that come out of the UK. And that's essentially the principle around it.
What's been extraordinary during the pandemic is the extent to which we've seen state intervention. Do you expect greater state intervention in the FinTech and broader tech sector now? Or do you think the state's role is going to draw back?
I think government's role is principally about convening. It's about moving the barriers away. I think less is more in terms of the government. Government needs to let private sector get on with it, but they need to facilitate it. They need to encourage it. They need to convene and make sure that the barriers that do exist are out of the way.
What do you see are the risks to the UK's future progress, prosperity, and position on the world stage if we don't get to grips with this challenge and deliver on our strategy?
Look, we identified some of the, three threats, if you like, in the review. We talked about Brexit, we talked about COVID, we talked about international competition. And the UK is a leader in this sector, but it's really important that we don't become complacent. So without additional action, I think our 10% global market share could be eroded.
You mention in the review the focus on three threats. We start with international competition, and let's take Singapore as an example. It has executed its strategic tech strategy, and it's become a regional and global hub for tech. How far behind the curve do you think the UK is in executing its strategic tech strategy?
In many ways, the US has stolen a march in terms of technology companies. Singapore has declared that its goal is to be an international hub and a regional leader in fintech innovation. I think there's still an opportunity, a key opportunity for us in the UK to play in the fintech space. We've got strong heritage and strong legacy in terms of financial services. And if you truly believe, as I do, that fintech is the future of financial services, then it's everything to play for.
Assuming that we deliver through a public-private partnership, if you like, how long do you think it's going to take us to get ahead of the game in terms of becoming established regional, global regional players?
Look, supporting export growth was a key theme in the review. So whilst the UK has a strong environment for startups, there is always a risk that fintechs looking for scale may see the UK market as limited based on its size. So I think it's important that the UK can position itself as a springboard for international expansion. I think that's the way to characterize it. And that expansion is often vital to fintechs who are facing global competition from not only fintechs in other jurisdictions, but also the big tech companies.
Brexit is identified as a clear threat. It's created uncertainty and additional cost for business. How can the drag on the UK fintech and broader tech sector, the competitiveness of those sectors caused by Brexit, be ameliorated?
So we've identified a number of ways in which the threat caused by Brexit can be reversed. The first is around attracting international talent, and the second is on regulation and standard setting. When it comes to talent, there's no doubt that Brexit has made accessing international talent harder. But no jurisdiction has got their approach to attracting fintech talent exactly right here. So we've got an opportunity, and we're perfectly poised to lead global innovation in this space and position ourselves ahead of our competitors. Following our departure from the EU, we've gained greater powers to basically remodel our regulatory framework. And we must take advantage of this and to ensure that we can now support scale and adoption. I think right now we're in a relatively unique position to deliver an ambitious digital finance package that can set the standard for the rest of the world.
In the review, there are three main opportunities: job creation, increased trade, and improved social inclusion. The opportunities for tech-based job creation are enormous. However, there's long been a significant tech skills gap in the UK, and that's going to take time to bridge. Is that a realistic policy, bearing in mind how we may have arrived at Brexit?
So the new fast-track system will help fintechs today by maintaining access to overseas talent to be a great global leader. I mean, we get all of that. But we still need to address at the core the domestic talent pipeline. That's at the heart of your question. And by improving our own talent pipeline, we'll create a more sustainable model, and reliance on overseas talent should decline. The second initiative, or the recommendation, was to build a pipeline of talent by supporting scale-ups to offer embedded work placements to help further education and higher education students. This is, I think, the huge opportunity to align the future skills needed for growth with education.
One of the issues is around clustering and networking of tech hubs. And the review talks about this as extremely important in terms of driving the sector. But what I'm interested in knowing from you is whether you think that can be centrally or locally planned. How do you give that opportunity of upskilling or retraining to people who are not able to get to the hub locations?
The success story is not about London, but it has been in terms of fintech, but it's been spread across the UK in clusters. Clusters are where financial services, technology expertise, STEM skills, academia, and investment capital are present. And to support their continued growth and foster these specialist capabilities and enhance the national connectivity, we've identified 10 clusters that are producing more consistent, and they need to produce more consistent and targeted 3-year fintech strategies. That's the way that we're trying to tackle it. And I think it's a vital part if the UK is to play as UK PLC.
And we have a pretty high rate in the UK of digitally excluded members of society. Do we need a Biden-esque digital infrastructure program to run concurrently with the industrial tech strategy to be able to deliver the strategy?
Look, digital exclusion is a problem in the UK, and it's something that we're going to need to be cognizant of as we go forward. Access is important, but I'm not sure it's an infrastructure package that we need to deliver equality of tech opportunities across the UK. Not everyone's got the ability to use the internet and online services. I think we need to be focused on how we improve the skills of our population, and that needs to be a national effort that require investment from both the public and the private sector.
I want to look at another very important stream of recommendations that came out of the review around unlocking institutional capital. And one of the recommendations was the creation of a £1 billion FinTech growth fund. A very clear message that we're hearing is that there are very significant amounts of institutional capital available to invest in UK VC funds. The issue is that it's coming from overseas institutional investors and is going back out to those investors when there's realization. So my question is, do we need a radical shake-up of the situation here, permitting UK institutional investors in the tech sector?
It was a surprise to me that through the work on the review that UK fintech, insofar as domestic capital is concerned, is a relatively underserved investment opportunity. 2019 figures, I think it was, show that 26% of the investment came from domestic sources. Not only does that create difficulties for firms looking to access finance, it also represents, I think, a missed opportunity for UK investors. So that's why we recommend this £1 billion growth fund. The fund would be market-led. It should be financed by domestic institutional capital. It will be modelled on the business growth fund, but focused solely on the sector. And it provides a viable and a focused solution for facilitating new productive investment into UK fintech.
So it's almost like opening a crack in the door. Land this and then let's see where we get to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because with that you can create indices. With that you can create better comps, and you can just have an ecosystem that can work with.
UK tech sector is in good health, and it's fared well during the pandemic, growing jobs and attracting plenty of investment. So can we be confident about the sector, or are there reasons to be concerned?
We have a lot to be proud of. A lot to be proud of in terms of where we are, our market share, the history, the legacy that we've built. But we have to take action. Other markets and other countries are watching what we do. And when I've asked many in other jurisdictions, what is it they're doing? They have a very simple answer. They say, we look at what you are doing in the UK and we copy it. I think we're now at a place where we have to ensure that we collectively work together. And the prize is about jobs, and it's about the future of the sector, financial services, which is at the cornerstone of the UK. We're known for that. And as I said right at the beginning, the future of financial services is about FinTech. So I'm very optimistic and very hopeful, because I think we're going to get there.
It's good to end on a very optimistic message. And Ron, thank you. Thank you so much for your time today.
The Mishcon Academy Digital Sessions. To access advice for businesses that is regularly updated, please visit mishcon.com.